Bereshit bara Elohim et hashamayim v'et haaretz. In the beginning, God created the heavens and the earth. This is what we read this week in our Torah portion, Bereshit. V'haaretz hayta tohu vavohu. Tohu vavohu. JPS translates it as unformed and void. Robert Alter says welter and waste. And Everett Fox describes tohu vavohu as confusion and chaos. Confusion and chaos. We saw so much chaos this week. The chaos of bombed fences and paragliders. The chaos of innocent civilians, innocent children murdered. The chaos of the highest single-day death toll of Jews since the Holocaust. The chaos of a pogrom, the chaos of terrorism. And we continue to see chaos if you open a news app with hostages still held in Gaza, with infighting, the chaos of infighting among Jews, among neighbors turning against each other instead of toward each other. Indiscriminate bombing in Gaza, not only of terrorists, but of children. How do we confront tohu vavohu, this confusion and chaos? As I said in the beginning, as I said at last night's board meeting, I don't have an answer. I do have many feelings, rage and anger and fear and compassion. And I've fluctuated in between, and sometimes I feel both, and sometimes I feel something else, and it's hard to pin down because of the chaos. But before there was chaos, there was Torah. Our Midrash teaches that Torah existed before the world was created. Torah was, in fact, the blueprint by which the world was created. And our tradition also teaches that that very same Torah has 70 faces of Torah, meaning countless interpretations and understandings of Torah. When there was nothing but chaos, there was still Torah. And so here is some Torah that has spoken to me this week, recognizing that there are 70 faces of Torah and countless ways that we have each felt and responded in reaction to the news. We have left-leaning, right-leaning folks. We have emotions where we've fluctuated the gamut, but perhaps this Torah will speak to you too. First, when Patriarch Jacob thought that Joseph had died, he could not be comforted. His sons, his daughters turned to him, but he refused, saying, Ki ered el b'nei evel she'ola. No, I will go down mourning to my son in Sheol. Jacob is in grief. He wanted to go to Sheol, this subterranean underworld of an afterlife. It's not very well defined in Torah, but the way I read it is that Jacob is suffering and he feels as though the whole world is about to swallow him up. He feels the crushing pain, the weight of everything on his shoulders. As the news poured in, I too felt this weight. I felt that the world might be swallowing us up. The constricting grief, the numbness that comes with it, the raw pain, the real pain. In the face of chaos, I felt as though the world would swallow me up. The next piece of Torah comes from the very end of this week's Torah portion. Vayar Adonai ki rabbah ra'ot ha'adam ba'aretz. The Eternal One saw how great was human wickedness on earth, that every plan devised by the human mind was nothing but evil all the time. This segues into the Noah story next week. But this week we saw true evil. Evil in ways maybe we haven't seen before, or if we had, perhaps not in a while. So many people said this was Israel's 9/11. For many of us, this might be a feeling we haven't felt in 22 years. It's that same sense of evil, that same question of how could this be? True wickedness on earth. And the Torah says that even God was shocked when God saw the evil. When God saw the wickedness, God felt sorrow in God's heart. So too did I feel sorrow this week. Sadness and grief. Again, those raw feelings. In the face of chaos, I felt sadness, and I continue to feel sadness and grief and fear. Later in the Torah, Moses goes up the mountain. He goes up Mount Sinai. He receives the Torah. He receives the 10 Commandments, but then he hears chaos. He goes down the mountain. Vayhi ka'ashar karav el hamachaneh. As soon as Moses came near the camp and saw the golden calf and saw the dancing, he became enraged, and he hurled the tablets from his hands and shattered them at the foot of the mountain. Moses hears the chaos. He hears the people with the calf, and vayachar af. He became enraged. He hurled the 10 Commandments. He hurled the tablets. Anger filled my bloodstream this week. We've all read the same stories. We've all seen the images or watched the news, and I don't want to share those details. But it has made my blood boil. And my first reaction, and I'm not necessarily proud to admit it, was to smash the tablets. Burn it all down, I thought. Sometimes I still feel that anger. I have been angry mostly at Hamas and the terrorists, at the scum of the earth and the organizations who defend them. But then this week, that anger spread. It continued there, but it also spread to anger at the unjust and corrupt systems that perpetuate this. Anger at the Palestinian leadership who continues to deny 2 states. Anger at Hamas who wants to destroy Israel's very existence. Anger at the Israeli government and leadership who promotes an authoritarian government over a safe and peaceful democratic state. And anger at a military that might be just going too far. In the face of chaos, I feel angry. At the very beginning of this week's Torah portion, we read, Vayivra Elohim et ha'adam b'tzalmo, b'tselem Elohim bara oto. And God created humankind in the divine image, creating it in the image of God, creating them male and female. My anger comes in part because the core Jewish belief of B'Tselem Elohim says that all of humanity is created in God's image. Hearing the stories come out of Israel ruins this image. It destroys this, right? Desecration of human bodies means desecration of God's image. And yet Rashi teaches that the Torah could have begun in Exodus with the story of the Jewish people, but it starts right here in Bereshit with a universal text. Creation of the world, creation of humanity, not of the Jewish people. And so this text that fuels my anger also anchors my compassion. Because every human being is created B'Tselem Elohim in God's image. The innocent Israeli victims, but also the innocent Palestinian lives. Not Hamas, but the children, the patients in the hospitals. In the face of chaos, I recognize the innate divinity in every human being, which both causes me grief, but also leads me to compassion. The Talmud teaches us, Kol Yisrael Aravim Zeh Bazeh. The entire Jewish people is responsible for one another. This is about communal responsibility, about Jews taking care of each other. And I use the term Jew loosely, extending it to our Jewish and Jewish adjacent family members and community members. But we take care of each other. We show up. We form a chesed society. And so while I mourn the loss of all innocent lives, I especially grieve my Jewish brethren. Some of us know people in Israel. Some of us know people affected, and if not directly, 2, I think at most 3 degrees of separation. People in this community have family in Israel. People in this community have lost cousins, loved ones in Israel. I have a friend who is alive, thankfully, but she was at the festival that was butchered. This is our family, whether by blood or otherwise. And so we care and we grieve and we're afraid for them and we turn to each other. In the face of chaos, I turn to and receive support from the global Jewish community. And finally, back to Moses at the burning bush. Standing in awe of this flame, Moses says, Bi Adonai lo ish devarim anochi, please my Lord, no man of words am I, for heavy of mouth and heavy of tongue am I. Moses, the leader, could not speak. Perhaps we too feel in this moment that we cannot speak, because we wrestle with all of these emotions. Again, perhaps that initial burst of anger bombed them all, suddenly turned to shock and shame. Is that how I really feel? Perhaps an initial act of compassion. Surely it's because they're oppressed. But what about our loved ones? We have so many feelings, so many conflicts. It weighs heavily on our hearts. Our lips and our tongues are heavy. And even if we had the words, we might feel the pressure not to speak. Speak too proudly of Israel and the left attacks. Speak too critically of Israel and the right attacks. One misplaced word, one misspoken mischaracterization. And with social media, it's so easy to be eviscerated online. You may have seen that there are some Harvard individuals and organizations that have been doxxed. Their names were put out there on billboards for saying negative things about Israel. Any social media post will have comments that say, why didn't you say this specific thing? Or how could you take that position? And so it's hard to speak up at all. And yet Moses, despite feeling heavy of mouth and of tongue, does speak up. He goes and he leads and he speaks to Pharaoh, and so must we. Because it's okay to have these feelings. It's okay to feel that they're complicated or even contradictory, but shying away is not the answer. In the face of chaos, we speak up, even when it is hard to do. These cases, this is the Torah that I'm holding this week. These are the feelings that I'm holding this week. I hold each of these and more. You may hold some of them, you may hold all of them, maybe none of them, and maybe more, because we exist in this chaos. And yet after the chaos, the Torah teaches that there was light. Vayomer Elohim yehi or vayehi or. God said, let there be light. And there was light. From chaos to light. Rabbi Brad Hirschfield, who's the president of CLAL, the National Jewish Center for Learning and Leadership, recently shared the words of a former officer in Israel's special forces. This officer said, I am grappling with sadness and anger, humiliation, disappointment, vengeance, and hope. We are in chaos. We are in the chaos and we feel all these feelings of sadness and anger and humiliation and disappointment, grief and vengeance and compassion and hope. Let us hold on to hope. Hope such as responses from children across the world sending letters and drawings to Israeli soldiers and Israeli civilians. Support from Jews around the world, support from the church, helping us in our time of need. I've been anchoring hope in the story of a friend who is in the north of Israel. Even amidst the war, she was giving birth to her new baby. And so even in the chaos, there's light. May we turn from chaos to light. May we turn from chaos to hope. And I hope you'll rise and join me in the singing of Hatikva, Israel's national anthem, which I believe is on your handout. At the bottom of page 2. At the bottom of page 2 of your handout, please join me in singing Hatikva. And please rise if you're able. Kol od balevav pneima, nefesh Yehudi homia, ufate mizrach kadima, ein litzion Sophia. Od lovda tikvatenu, hatikva bat shnot alpayim, leotam chofshi be'atzenu eretz Zion v'Yerushalayim. Leotam chofshi be'artzenu eretz Zion v'Yerushalayim. You may be seated. And so I want to hear from you.